Conversations for change, because the world is ready. It's been an extremely energetic week, almost like a roller coaster. And I certainly have noticed each day how differently the energy is moving and how differently I feel from moment to moment as I walk through it. Starting the week, really over the last weekend, before the week even started, in communication with friends in parts of the world that are literally blowing up, and moving through high emotional tensions in the people closer to home, working my way back to center and finding so many insights along the way. There was a healing I participated in on Tuesday that was built around the idea of feeling safe, which I think is a powerful and important thing for us to spend time and energy helping ourselves to find our way back to in times like this. And all of these different parts of the week, of the energies that were moving, were showing me so clearly a concept that came up over and over: the idea of the power of choice, and what it means, and how it works, and what it is. And one of the things that became abundantly clear very quickly was that when we are in a place of dysregulation, whether it's due to outer experiences, external events, inner turmoil, or personal relationship turmoil, it really doesn't matter what brings the dysregulation. What matters is that when we are in the dysregulation, we lose our power of choice. We move to reaction. We move to being triggered. All of those things happen. And so each time any of those things happen, we're given the opportunity to look and see what's triggering me. Now, obviously, if you are literally in a situation where there is warfare in your local vicinity, you don't have to be asking yourself these questions. What you need at that point is a community of people to help you to self-soothe and to get through it. And hopefully you have that. And hopefully people from around the world who love you can reach out to you and offer some of that to you. But on the day-to-day level, we often don't give ourselves permission to stop and find our way back to feeling safe. And in fact, in conversations with people this week, what I've seen and what we've discovered in those conversations is that many of us have spent lifetimes, decades, moving, doing, producing, and burying those feelings of fear, of doubt, of self-doubt, of worry, all the things that lead us to lose our sense of safety. And without safety, we do not have a true power of choice, because we don't have access to our creative, intuitive self. And I think about the work I've done with Dr. Joe Dispenza and the meditations and the feeling that you get in a week-long advanced retreat, where at some point during the week everything shifts, and it seems that's happening faster and faster. um, in my experience over the years, that shift is happening not on day 3 or day 4, but on day 2, sometimes day 3, but often on day 2. And when that shift happens, suddenly everybody's smiling, everybody's kind, you're in love with the entire group of people. And that being in love with the entire group of people is an absolute direct reflection of everybody having moved into a place of feeling safe. And really, his work is about this task of regulating a dysregulated nervous system. That's really what the meditations teach us to do. That's why he's always after his students to look at the thoughts that are going through their minds and change them, and use those words, change, make it different. Because it's an act of will sometimes, often, to take yourself out of a state of dysregulation and bring yourself back to safety. It takes practice. It takes repetition. But what you discover if you'll do the work of bringing yourself back to that feeling of safety by doing the healing work, looking at the things that disrupt you, the things that you still react to, digging inside and finding what it is that's still triggering you, what is the belief you're still walking around with, and making the decision to choose it, to let go of it. And often that means you have to go through an emotional release. In fact, most of the time it means you have to go through an emotional release, which is why it's difficult work and why most people don't want to do it. But the reward for that is that you begin to be able to step more and more frequently into the state of safety, into the space of feeling comfortable in your body, into the space of feeling optimistic about the world around you, into the space of feeling as if all good things are possible again. In many ways, it's like a return to the childhood that many of us didn't get, or a return to those moments in childhood that we did get, that often got short-circuited as we moved through our childhood, either through siblings or family tensions or all kinds of different things, school. But whatever it is that causes the dysregulation, once we can identify it, once we can see it, and we can name it, it becomes so much easier to work through it and let it go. And once we let it go, then we step into this place where suddenly there is choice. And what does that mean, that there's choice? Well, what it really means is that rather than believing the self-talk that says, you're no good at this, once again, you've had a problem, once again, I haven't lived up to what I expected, I'm never going to get there, all those kinds of thoughts that come up when we're facing challenges. Instead, we're able to stop and remind ourselves that we've done really well to get to where we are. That given everything we've been through, we're doing very well, and we deserve to be safe. It also means we learn how to maintain our boundaries, and so it becomes easier to retain that feeling of safety. But the biggest gift that we get from this feeling of safety is that it gives us the opportunity to make new choices. And we cannot make new choices without getting into a space where we have the confidence to believe in ourselves, to allow ourselves to even consider that we're worthy of a new choice. And that's why most of us don't get there. We've bought the line. We've internalized the story about what we're not capable of so deeply. And we've lived so long in the dysregulation that it takes us some serious time to bring ourselves back to a place of peace and calm and safety. But it's so worth doing. And I'm really excited because when I look out in the world now, what I see is people talking about it. For the first time, people are actually talking about the nervous system and about dysregulation and about how this whole culture is designed to dysregulate us and what we can do to bring ourselves back to center, back to the place where we literally have the freedom of choice again in our own lives. Because when we don't feel free and safe, we don't have choice. And we're so conditioned to being in that place that we don't even realize that we don't have choice. We just plod on, do the best we can, walk through each moment as it comes at us, and spend our lives being exhausted, overworked, overtired, wrung out because we haven't figured out how to put the brakes on and give ourselves what we need. And you might think, well, so I don't have that many choices, but I have an okay life and I'm doing the best I can. And, I have kids and all these other things going on and it's all okay. And it is all okay. Wherever we are is always okay because that's where we are. We start somewhere. But the thing that we come to realize over time, especially when we get a little perspective and have the opportunity to look back, is that without this feeling of safety, without this ability to be at ease and to make choices from that place of ease, it's very difficult to make change. And when you want to change your life, when you want to make your life a better life for your kids than it was for you as a kid, when you really want to implement a new story for the world and for yourself and for your family and your friends, you have to be able to make change. And you cannot make change when you are living in a dysregulated nervous system. You can't do it. And the reason isn't because there's something wrong with you. The reason is because you don't have the wherewithal. You don't have the resource. You don't have the ability to feel what it feels like to feel into that change that you want. You can only see it from a distance that feels painfully far away. And the way we change in this world is to step into the feeling of what it is we're seeking. And until we can feel it, we cannot imagine it in any way that can bring it forth for us. Because our feelings are the guiding system that makes us work in this world. It gives us the power of creation. And that's why it is so powerful to be in a culture that is spending a lot of time and energy keeping you in a dysregulated state. Because as long as you're there, you don't have the ability to create and feel your way out of it until you begin to understand that it's actually the most important thing. That how you feel is actually the guiding, running energy of your life. And a lot of us, like me, spent a good deal of our lives, especially in our early years, constantly being pushed into dysregulation because we were highly sensitive or because we were intuitive. And we were hiding those things because they didn't fit. We didn't know how to interact because we felt one way and were living in a situation that looked another way. And we didn't know what to do about it. And that leaves you in a place where you lose trust in yourself. And once you've lost trust in yourself, finding your way back to safety is some real work. It takes time. And it takes a diligence and a persistence and a belief that it's worth taking the time to do it. I guess I'm thinking about all these things and want to talk about them because I see so clearly around me the evidence of what happens to us when we lose our sense of safety. And I see so clearly and feel so deeply how powerful it is when we get it back. For myself, it's leading me to this place of understanding things that have been going on in my life for decades that I just couldn't quite put my finger on what they were trying to tell me. And now I look at them and I see so clearly this magical life, this magical side to myself that I was afraid to unleash, that I was afraid to acknowledge, because I had this idea that it wasn't trustworthy, that if I let the world know that I lived in this magical realm, that I would no longer be trustworthy. And now what I realize so clearly is this magical realm is where all my trust comes from. It's what supports me and holds me together. And it has for my whole life. And I never trusted it enough to let it truly show me what was possible. Because I always second guess it. I always would step back into the logical mind and away from what everything in me knew could be. And short circuit myself. And so I've used this path of living in the magical realm without allowing myself to truly live here, to hold myself sort of in a non-moving place forever. Oh, I have little inroads here and there. I have little moments. I allow myself certain little explorations and joys and creations. But I've never really let myself go there. I've never really let myself trust and feel completely held and safe within the structure of my internal world that has been reaching to hold me all these years. And now, as I begin to see it more clearly, I see that all the magic is what has made life worth living for me. There has never been a time when the mundane world was enough for me, ever. It just doesn't do it. I need the magic. I need the way the sky looks just before the sun sets. I need those full moons. I need flushes of hummingbirds rushing up in my face, or dragonflies, completely unexpected. So many experiences I have had where nature has come to me and said to me, "We love you. Can you see us?" I need those moments when I have an idea of how something can be, and suddenly it appears just like that, exactly as I imagined it, perfectly on time. Not big things, not giant things, all the little things that make it all perfect. All the tiny little plants coming up in the greenhouse so perfectly. The baby birds wobbling as they take their first flights. There is so much magic. And all this time, I have been convinced that somehow the magic wasn't enough. It couldn't pay the bills. It couldn't fix what was broken. And I'm finally beginning to understand it fixes everything. And the reason it can fix everything is because it's a choice. And when you move into the place where you live in choice, you move out of crisis. There is no crisis. And there's nothing to prove either. And in those moments, there's room for safety, and there's room for joy. And that is what makes everything worth living for. If you take that away, there's nothing else. There's nothing left. There's nothing good enough to hold you here. And that's the power of choice. But you can't reach it if you can't find the calm center of safety first.